Among the countless couples in the Bible, few relationships began as romantically as that of Isaac and Rebekah. The meeting between Isaac, who was wandering the fields in grief after losing his mother Sarah, and Rebekah, who had resolutely mounted a camel from distant Padan Aram with nothing but faith, was like a scene from a movie. The Bible records that Isaac brought Rebekah into his tent and was comforted after his mother's death. Furthermore, unlike Abraham or Jacob, Isaac was the only patriarch who did not take a concubine, remaining faithful to one wife throughout his life. To him, Rebekah was both a wife and a substitute for his mother. His monogamy may have stemmed from a high emotional dependence on her, or perhaps, due to Rebekah's strong leadership, he felt no need or lacks the courage to look elsewhere. Regardless, their bond was solidified through 20 years of infertility. In the agony of childlessness, Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife, and God answered his prayer. The time of suffering and prayer they shared was enough to bind them not merely as a couple, but as spiritual comrades. However, why did such a seemingly perfect beginning careen toward a tragic ending? How did partners who once comforted each other's souls turn into a couple who deceived and betrayed one another? This question serves as a crucial key to understanding the breakdown of countless families today. Where respect vanishes, silence flows. The first crack in their relationship appeared not from an external crisis, but from the collapse of internal trust. When a famine struck, they went down to the land of Gerar. There, Isaac lied, claiming his wife Rebekah was his sister to save his own life. While he was following in his father Abraham's footsteps, in Rebekah's eyes, it must have been a moment of profound disappointment in her husband. A man who cannot protect me, a cowardly man who puts me in danger for his own safety. To Rebekah, a woman of strong character, that event must have been an indelible shock. Ironically, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out of a window and saw Isaac caressing Rebekah. The Hebrew word used here implies an exchange of endearments with strong sexual nuances. Considering they were already aging and in a tense situation where their lives were threatened, their physical relationship and intimacy seemed to remain quite strong, enough for them to engage in secret displays of affection. But at that very moment, a corner of her heart was likely turning cold. Watching a husband who lied about her identity, her personal respect for him crumbled, and trust began to crack. They likely devolved into a deformed relationship, a couple whose bedroom was hot, but whose living room conversation was cold. Where respect vanishes, only a stranger, or someone less than a stranger, remains. Rebekah no longer viewed her husband as a partner to rely on or consult. Instead, she may have demoted him to an object to be managed and manipulated. After this incident, it is difficult to find a scene in the Bible where the two engage in honest conversation. The psychological basis that allowed her to boldly deceive her husband later when diverting the blessing to Jacob likely stemmed from the trust that was shattered at this time. Eventually, Isaac went into his tent and Rebekah into hers. Sharing their bodies, but not their hearts, they began a life of two families under one roof, dreaming different dreams.
Children as substitutes, a tragic triangle. Once the emotional umbilical cord between the couple was severed, a pathological phenomenon emerged to fill the void. The formation of a triangulation, dragging children into the buffer zone of marital conflict. Isaac was an avoidant type. Whether due to the trauma of Mount Moriah or his innate temperament, he tended to hide in a cave rather than face conflict. Burdened by his wife's strong dominance and sharp gaze, Isaac turned his eyes outside the home. There he found Esau, a son overflowing with wildness. Isaac loved Esau not for his character, but for his game meat. Through his son's wild nature, he vicariously satisfied his own masculinity and soothed his emotional hunger with delicious food. On the other hand, Rebekah, unable to find emotional intimacy with her husband, turned to Jacob. To her, Jacob was an emotional husband, surpassing the role of a son. Staying indoors, listening to her mother, and helping with cooking, Jacob was the perfect substitute to soothe Rebekah's loneliness. In psychology, this is referred to as emotional incest, or the spouseification of a child. Here the tragedy of the brothers was conceived. Isaac had to wander the field searching for game to earn his father's love, while Jacob had to master the survival skills of reading his mother's moods in the kitchen to maintain her affection. When parental love flows partially, children perceive each other not as brothers, but as rivals. War on the dinner table, a proxy war named Blessing. The conflict between Isaac and Rebekah reached its peak with the Blessing incident. While it appears on the surface to be a spiritual issue regarding the birthright, a closer look reveals it was a fierce political proxy war between the couple. Even though Isaac knew God's oracle, the older shall serve the younger, he stubbornly attempted to bless Esau, insisting on his gustatory satisfaction and custom. This was an act of rebellion against his wife Rebekah and an obstinate attempt to establish his final authority as the patriarch. Instead of persuading her husband directly or reminding him of God's will, Rebekah played the card of deception. She orchestrated the situation, telling Jacob, "Let the curse fall on me." While this looked like devoted maternal love, in reality it was a terrifying obsession to completely disregard her husband's authority and control the family according to her own will. That night, what was served on Isaac's table was not delicious delicacy, but lies and deceit. The husband was thoroughly mocked by his wife and younger son, and the wife exploited her husband's blindness to seize victory. However, there was no winner in this war. Conclusion: Jacob, who grew up watching his parents' backs. The conclusion of this family is devastating. Jacob had to flee by night to escape his brother's blade, and Rebekah never saw the son she loved so much again until the day she died. Isaac had to spend a lonely old age amidst betrayal and loss. Even more painful is that this couple's dysfunctional relationship was bequeathed to Jacob as a legacy. The pathological obsession Jacob later showed for Rachel and his blatant favoritism toward Joseph were methods of love he learned from his parents. The distorted values that love is something to be seized, favor is natural, and one can deceive family for a purpose were passed down like a tragic inheritance. The story of Isaac and Rebekah offers a chilling lesson to us today. The greatest gift parents can give their children is not an inheritance or academic pedigree, but the sight of parents deeply respecting and loving each other. When a couple does not look into each other's eyes, that gaze is directed toward the children in a distorted form, becoming a violence named love that bruises the children's souls. The harsh years Jacob had to endure may have been the bill left by parents who closed their hearts to one another. Therefore, the restoration of a family must begin not with child-rearing techniques, but at the couple's dinner table. Only when mutual respect, trust, and truthful conversation are restored can children finally breathe safely behind their parents' backs. Please consider subscribing and supporting Logos Community in our mission to spread the gospel. Thank you.